YouTube, what's up? It's your boy Case Darius in the building with another video. Faith and finance is what we stacking if you didn't know. Second video on my channel. I appreciate all my 8 subscribers. Traffic! We about to get into it, video number 2. We breaking down the banks because we try to get to the breach. We try to get to the money. We try to create our own banks. Number 1, we gotta they profit from debt banks while the Bible wars directly against it. You take out a $20,000 car loan at 6%. I'll give y'all an example. Over 5 years, you end up paying around $23,200. The bank makes $3,200 just because you didn't pay up front. Banks build empires while you build debt. God calls us to financial freedom, not bondage. So what that verse tells us is, if you always borrowing and you don't have money, coming in and stuff like that, I'm broke. You always gonna be a slave to the lender. You gotta set up your own bank. There's a lot of ways you do that. If y'all don't know, I'm also a life insurance agent. That's what God called me to do.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
There's something called the IUL, the Index Universal Life Insurance Policy. This is one way you can become your own bank. It's basically a savings account that comes with life insurance, to make it as simple as possible. Another way is, if you know about Forex, learning a trade, which is Forex, that's basically becoming your own bank too. You put in $100, you learn how to trade, you start making $100 a day, now your account going up, now you become your own bank. Another way, become an entrepreneur. I know all this stuff is easier said than done, but when you become an entrepreneur, you start making your own money, you start employing people. That's how you become your own bank too. And even when you do start to, borrow money, because I'm not saying that you shouldn't borrow money at all. That's not what the Bible is saying either. It depends on how you use it. So, you get a business banking account, you get a business credit card, take that money to invest in something, but you still have your own money. You just use that to leverage, and now you're not in a constant cycle of borrowing, not having the money to pay, paying interest. You're becoming your own bank, and you're not letting the bank finesse you. But that's number 1. Number 2, they use fractional reserve banking.
What?
When I was learning about how banks work and stuff, when I heard fractional reserve banking, I immediately got scared because I was like, yo, I do not like math fractions. I don't even think I heard that since college. Math was my least favorite subject, but as I got older, I still don't like math like that. I like the math that makes money and that makes sense. I don't want to hear about the Pythagorean theorem. I don't want to hear about the square root of pi. I just want to know about stuff that I need for real life. We're going to start with a Bible verse. I actually don't have the Bible verse written down. Traffic! I'm going to put it on the screen though. Matthew 25:15-16. It basically talks about the parable of talents. So if you don't know about the parable of talents, what basically happened is some of the servants multiplied their gifts, and there was one that didn't multiply his gifts at all. Don't be that person. But I'm gonna give y'all another real life example of how fractional reserve banking works. So for an example, you deposit $1,000 into your savings. The bank is only required to keep a fraction, which is like 10%. Let's say for this example, on hand, and can legally lend out $900 on your deposit. They multiply what they don't own, but you can't access that same power unless you invest kingdom style. I don't know about you. I mean, it does sound like a finesse, but from their perspective, it sounds like business. But that's how fractional reserve banking works. A lot of y'all may not know that. I used to think, okay, I got $1,000, I deposited. I'm not knowing what they do with the money at the time. But now it's like, oh, I give them 1,000. They only keep, they got more than 100, but that's how they flip. That's how they invest in things like that. But that's how fractional reserve banking works, in case you didn't know. Number 3, they earn interest. Meaning, you work, they watch. Bible verse, Deuteronomy 23:19. You shall not charge interest to your brother. I don't think none of the banks read this verse.
No.
So if they did, they probably ignored it. Let's give an example. A 30-year mortgage for $300,000 at 7% interest means you'll pay $419,000 in interest. That's almost double your home price. While you working 40 hours a week, the bank earns in their sleep. But God says not to exploit others through interest. We should build wealth righteously. I don't know about y'all, but when Bakes do that, that's not righteous or righteous. Righteous. I can't talk righteous at all. But from a business perspective, worldly business perspective, it makes sense to them. It's like, oh, so I'll give them this, but they're gonna end up paying me more. So, in the worldly perspective, that makes sense. If you guys don't know about my other channel, Case of Theirs, make sure you subscribe to that one as well. But I say this verse a lot on there. Romans 12:2. Don't conform to the patterns of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and prove God's perfect will. I say that to say these banks are conforming to the patterns of the world. They play a copycat. They like, oh, you charging interest? Oh, I'm gonna charge interest. Why can't they just give us a loan and we don't have to pay more with interest? But everybody isn't biblical. Everybody not trying to live righteous and stuff like that. So that's how we end up in situations where we gotta pay interest. It's just the world we live in. In this world, you'll have trouble, but take heart, because God has overcome the world. Let's get into number 4, though. They invest your money while paying you pennies. Yes, pennies, not dollars, not even quarters. Pennies. He who is faithful with little will be faithful with much. Let's give an example. Your savings account pays you 0.01 interest. I'm gonna run that back. 0.01, not even 1%. They giving you 0.01% interest, or $1 for every $10,000 a year. Meanwhile, the bank uses your deposit to invest in real estate or the stock market at 6 to 10% in returns. They multiply your money while you think you're playing it safe, but God calls you to be a faithful steward. Multiply what's in your hand. So a lot of times we can feel like, man, I only got $10. So if you watch my first video, I talked about this, like, oh, I got $10. I don't know about real estate. I don't know about investing. I don't know about this, but I know about basketball. Let me put 10 in here.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
So when we talk about the 0.01% interest, which is nothing, these are some other alternatives you can do. I didn't know about this a couple years ago, but at HYSA, I just wanted to say HYSA because it sounds more, you know what I'm saying, studious. I think that's the word I'm looking for. But yeah, what I'm saying is it's a high yield savings account. So instead of that 0.01, you could earn 3%, you can earn 5%, which is still not that much, but depending on how much bread you put in, it adds up. Another thing you can do on top of the HYSA, high yield savings account, is an IUL. The IUL, what I said is a savings account that comes with life insurance. It's like a savings account on steroids. So I know a lot of y'all watching this, you probably don't even have life insurance, especially if you're older. I see it all the time. But getting the IUL, that's a savings account, and you get in life insurance. And if you have your own business, you save money on taxes too. So not to go into details about what the IUL is, that's not for this video. I'll make another one about that. But for this example, the 0.01 on average, the IUL will grow 6 to 10% every year. It's been like that since 2003. It mirrors the stock market, the S&P 500. That's what 500 of the largest companies, in the world. So, that's another good alternative to get out of the 0.01%, because that's ridiculous. I mean, I don't know about you, but 0.01%, you could just keep my money. I'm just kidding. I want all my money. I'm from Queens.
I'm from Queens. All I care about is my bread.
Invest in yourself. Investing in tithing too. A lot of people overlook this. When you tithing, I'll say this, 100% increase. It's not always like that, but when we sow into God's church, when we sow into God, and when we sow into ourselves too, you're gonna get a huge return on your investment for that. But a lot of times what happens is we settle, we gamble, we resort to the ways of the world, when in reality you gotta invest in God, you gotta invest in yourself, and you gotta, educate yourself like you're doing in this video, to learn about the other tools that God has out here to increase our wealth. Number 5, they charge fees for basic stewardship. Let's go to the Bible. Freely you have received, freely give. Example, you accidentally overdraft your account $5. The bank charges you a $35 fee. Now, be responsible. I know I worded this like, oh, they charge you extra 35, but they don't have to. But at the same time, you gotta be responsible. If you overdraft, I could see one time, two times, but if it's happening over and over again, you got a leak in your ship. But let's leave it at that. So let me keep going. If it happens again, you might be charged multiple times in one day. The poor are penalized for struggling while the rich are rewarded. God's financial system uplifts the needy, not exploits them. I don't know if I would have worded it like that. You know, I wrote this down, help via Chat GPT for some of these points. But what I'm saying is, yeah, so they charge fees. This goes back to the interest. That's really a fee too that they don't have to do. But you know, when you become your own bank, you're not gonna have to pay these extra fees and stuff. Why? Because why? You the bank. You run the show. The bank don't run the show. You run the show. So you need to know how the banks work so you can become your own bank, your own biblical bank. I'm gonna plug my ebook. It didn't drop yet, but by the time this video come out, it probably will. So I'm gonna drop the picture right now. It's called Billionaire Biblical Budgeting. Come with an audio book too. You can read it. It's free. We talk about things like this. So, you know, if you like this type of content, make sure you cop the book too. Number 6, they leverage trust while teaching you nothing about money. Now, if you know me, I have a shout out to Myron Golden. I forgot what he called the school system, but he got some funny acronym for the school system, something about miseducation. But what I'm saying is, I'm not the biggest supporter of school at all, depending on what you major and stuff like that. But similar to banks, they don't teach you nothing about money. Schools don't teach you about money, yet you give them your trust. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't trust a bank, but you know, a lot of banks do be scamming on the low. But what I'm saying is, this is why you need to educate yourself, because the banks don't want you knowing a lot of this information I even just told you. The Bible says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. They know that, and that's why they're not giving you the knowledge. You know, that's why you're on this channel right now, learning what you're learning, and that's why you're going to cop my free ebook, Billionaire Biblical Budgeting. And follow me on social media too. Follow your boy. But what I'm saying is, they don't teach you nothing, so you got to learn something. Number 7, to wrap up the video, they multiply what you deposit, you should too. Let's end with a verse. Give it, and it will be given to you, pressed down, shaken together, running over. That sounded like a rhyme. Let's give an example. You tired, invest in an IUL account, we talked about that, or start a small business, we talked about that. And over time, your money multiplies with purpose. Don't let banks be the only ones multiplying wealth. God designed you to be the lender, not the borrower. Deuteronomy 28:12. So, summarize the video, educate yourself. There was this, I was trying to use a big word. I forgot it. It was I think it started with an E. I might drop it right here when I edit this video. But what I'm saying is, educate yourself, invest in yourself, read books. Read my book or just listen to it, Billionaire Biblical Budgeting, because this is how, you know, you're going to get to the breach. This is how you go get to the bag. This is how you go become your own bank and, you know, eventually not need a bank. If you made this far, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Share if somebody needs to hear this. More content coming. I appreciate you for made this far. Share with somebody else that's trying to become their own bank. They need to hear this message. Kinks there some more.